Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode will guide you through the issues of the Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel Comics in 1976. Issue number 99. The biggest difference between the atmosphere surrounding Earth and the vast space outside of it is that space is pretty much a vacuum. Meaning that apart from certain objects flying around in it, there are hardly any molecules to be found in it. No molecules means no air and no vibrations of any kind. And what that means is that sound cannot expand itself as it would do within Earth's atmosphere. This merciless and undeniable fact is something which the Irishman Sean Cassidy is currently being reminded of. When the X-Men, otherwise known as Banshee, uses mutant powers of shrieking with his vocal cords, which allow him to create high-pitched vibrations and use these to fly him around among other things, he tried to rescue his teammate Wolverine and his former teammate Jean Grey from captivity. When he carried them and blasted the three of them through the walls of the structure that they were being held captive in about a minute ago, he found out that where he had assumed they were on some location on planet Earth, they were actually being held captive on some kind of space station orbiting the planet instead. And the three of them now find themselves helplessly drifting in the vacuum of space without any form of oxygen to breathe. What was supposed to be a glorious escape has now turned into a disaster. Things have certainly changed, and if things weren't bad enough already, two hunting Sentinels are coming after them, hot in pursuit. But luckily, as the three of them soon find out, Stephen Lang did not send the Sentinels after them to kill them, but to rescue them from their imminent death instead. When they get brought back on board of the space station, it becomes clear that the three of them are all suffering from extreme exposure. Stephen Lang then points out to them that they should consider themselves lucky to be alive, and he trusts that they have learned their lesson now, that there is no escape from here, not now and not ever. Back on Earth though, things have also changed. Where only minutes ago, Cyclops and the remaining members of the team on Earth were entirely lost as to where their fellow X-Men and Jean could have been taken by the Sentinels. The mutant detecting supercomputer Cerebro had not been able to find any trace of them anywhere on Earth. But apparently, that is precisely where the problem lies. Up until they had gotten a visitor in the form of Dr. Corbeau, no one expected the missing mutants to not be on Earth, but in space instead. Dr. Peter Corbeau is not sure of this, but it's certainly worth investigating. With his extensive network, his influence reaches deep within the government, being able to open doors which would normally remain closed to the average citizen. But as it seems, Xavier himself apparently has a certain kind of clearance as well, since Corbeau is able to hook Cerebro up to NORAD's main databank in Valhalla Mountain. A location Cyclops is all too familiar with, since that's the place where Thunderbird, one of his team members, recently died in a plane crash during a battle with Count Nefaria. What they find out, by asking the right questions and tracing the material which was used to building the Sentinels, is the exact location where the Sentinels are staged. And as it turns out, it's an orbital station. And not just any, it's actually S.H.I.E.L.D's orbital station. Later that evening, a news broadcast reports of an imminent launch of a shuttle, regardless of the heavy and hazardous current solar activity. The shuttle is part of the StarCorps project, and being piloted by none other than Dr. Peter Corbeau, and it's about to lift off. But in the meantime, the broadcast switches over to a reporter who tells about the widespread anti-mutant hysteria which has swept over the country ever since the Sentinels reappeared in New York during last Christmas Eve. It's clearly getting out of hand, with attacks on individuals and also the home of federal judge Robert Chalmers, who has been very vocal about the anti-mutant movement, has gotten firebombed. But luckily no one was home at that time. The reporter then gets interrupted by the news anchor because there's an update on the StarCorps shuttle launch. A mixed team of 4 men and a woman are currently boarding the ship. He adds that this launch was scheduled with unusual speed by Starcore, and because of this, little is known about their mission and the crew itself. In any event, more information will follow, as they will be covering the launch in detail. Inside the ship, we find out that this team are actually the X-Men, who will join Corbeau into space. Storm is happy that she can finally take her helmet off, now that they're inside and out of the camera's reach. If she would have had to endure being trapped inside of it any longer, she would have started screaming. Nightcrawler asks if Corbeau won't be getting into trouble for doing this, and he says that he thinks he's a good friend. He then takes a look at Piotr, who's sitting next to him, and asks him why he doesn't remove his helmet. He doesn't look good, and he started to break a sweat. The preparations for the launch continue as Kurt wants to ask Piotr if he's doing alright. But Piotr is not doing well at all. He transforms his body into organic metal, which rips his spacesuit to pieces, and shouts out the name Mikhail. Kurt asks him what's going on, and Colossus tells his friend that he's sorry, he didn't mean to, and that he was afraid. Colossus then confides in his teammates, and tells them that as they're sitting here inside this rocket, all he can think of is his older brother Mikhail, who was a test pilot and one of Russia's first cosmonauts, but he died. Burned alive on a launch pad when his rocket exploded. The two of them were really close. They were the only thing they had. Peter Corbeau tells him that he understands. He himself remembers the Apollo 1 fire and his friends whom he lost on that day as well. At that moment, there's a voice coming from the communication system, telling them that the countdown is at T-minus 1 minute and all systems are go. During the final 5 seconds of the countdown, right before liftoff, all crew members are lost in thought, each with their own personal perspective on the current situation, with some of them being excited to embark on this adventure, while others are anxious and scared. And with a barrage of lights and sound, the shuttle lifts off. Its passengers on a deadly serious mission to leave Earth and join the stars in space to find and rescue their friends and teammates. Despite some fear and doubts, the rockets with the shuttle lifts off and everything is going according to plan. We then quickly shift to another one of Starcore's orbital stations, but this time to one that orbits the Sun. The personnel aboard that vessel are shocked by the intensity of the sun flares which are currently being unleashed by Earth's sun. They are off the scales. The situation is escalating and it's becoming a lot worse than anticipated. So bad that Peter Corbeau is actually flying straight into the worst solar storm in living memory. Inside Corbeau's shuttle, Nightcrawler tries to comfort Colossus by joking around a bit. But Colossus is not in the mood at all. He has started to feel strange and is getting quite sick. Corbeau tells him it's a mild form of space sickness, and his body is reacting and adapting to zero gravity. But it's nothing to worry about, he assures him. He then tells everyone to be quiet because he has a priority message from Starcore incoming. Back on Earth, half a planet away from Starcore, in a village located close to Dublin, Ireland named Elroon, someone steps into a local post office. The weather is pretty bad, and the man gets told by the clerk to quickly close the door already. He says he's sorry, and introduces himself as Flaherty and that he's a legal representative. He drops off a letter addressed to Sean Cassidy, and tells the clerk that it's imperative that it gets delivered to his client without delay. As he walks out of the post office again, he makes clear once more the urgency of the delivery, which doesn't go down well with the clerk at all. As Flaherty leaves and walks through the storm, he suddenly gets approached by someone. They seem to know one another, and Flaherty tells the man that he's too late, and that his cousin has already been warned and that he will stop his mad plans. But the man, who identifies himself as Black Tom, then shoots Flaherty with some kind of wooden cane, and says that his cousin will die if he's trying to stop his plans instead. "1,347 miles above the Earth, the former SHIELD space platform circles the planet. Over the years, many people have visited it, including people in politics and scientists, but also the Avengers. But that was years ago, before budget cuts which forced SHIELD to abandon it, and years before Project Armageddon came into existence. Inside the space platform, one of the video screens is showing a space shuttle approaching, and Stephen Lang wants to know what that shuttle is doing here. He soon finds out that the shuttle belongs to Starcore and that its pilot is requesting sanctuary, seeking shelter from the solar radiation levels which are moving into the danger zone. Lang responds by saying that they are a top-secret United States government installation, and since they have foreign people on board, that sanctuary is being denied to them. One of Lang's technicians then tells him that the mutant detector is going off like crazy, which must mean that the shuttle is crammed with mutants. Lang orders him to send out the Sentinels then, which he does. The X-Men and Corbeau quickly fully suit up, but Nightcrawler asks what about Colossus, since his pressure suit has been ripped apart earlier. He will not stand a chance if they get hit. Corbeau tells him that he will just not have to get hit then. He then starts maneuvering the shuttle, trying to evade the Sentinels' attack, which he manages to do, but only for so long. The shuttle gets hit and it shatters the hull. Nightcrawler warns Storm to be careful because the Sentinel's energy beam cut her lifeline, but it's no use. The explosive decompression pulls Storm through the hole in the hull and hurls her into space. Cyclops tells Corbeau to hurry up and get them inside the station, because not only have they lost Storm, but Colossus is starting to suffocate. As the shuttle is still being followed by Sentinels, Corbeau rams the shuttle into the walls of the space station, telling everyone that they will not be able to use the shuttle to go home anymore. This tactic prohibits the Sentinels outside in space to prevent the mutant incursion, and they have now not only rammed the orbital space station, but invaded it as well. One of the Sentinels is going after Storm. This is the first time Storm is outside of Earth's atmosphere, and she wonders if she will be able to control cosmic storms just like she's able to control storms on Earth. She soon finds out that she can, which is a good thing or she would have been done for. Not only is Storm able to use the cosmic storms to fly herself around in space, but she also manages to tap into other cosmic energies, and starts to attack the Sentinel with a form of energy it has not encountered before. It cannot compensate for this phenomenon, and as it is being blasted halfway through space, the robot actually starts to scream. It sounds to Storm as a shriek of fear, as if it is human, and as she's making her way back to the space station, she wonders if this is the way she wants to live and honor her parents' memory, namely to break the oath she swore so long ago, the oath to never take another's life. She knows that in this case it was only a robot, but it does make her wonder. Sooner or later, her duty as an X-Men might require her to do so eventually. And perhaps, then it would be better if she would stop being an X-Men. Inside the space station, a massive battle has unfolded. The X-Men have started their assault and are attacking both Sentinels and Lang's personnel. One of the Sentinels has gotten a hold of Cyclops and is spraying him with anesthetic gas. Nightcrawler sees this happening, grabs the pipe and leaps at the Sentinel holding Cyclops. He then uses the pipe to violently smash the Sentinel's head in. This liberates his team leader, who was holding his breath, and he is thankful for the save. He tells Nightcrawler to be careful though, because he's not in the circus anymore. Nightcrawler tells him that he's been a showman all of his life, and that he's not about to change that. Not for him, and not for anyone. Showmanship and acrobatics are in his blood. As he's saying this, he pushes Cyclops out of harm's way and evades another Sentinel's attack. That Sentinel keeps charging at him, and Colossus tells him to quickly use the move they've been working on in the danger room together, as he steps on a piece of debris that's lying around. Nightcrawler knows precisely which move Colossus is speaking of, and uses his momentum to launch Colossus in the air, by jumping on the other side of the beam. This maneuver propels Colossus with a lot of speed, straight at the Sentinel that was chasing Nightcrawler. He curls himself up, basically becoming a human cannibal of organic metal. And the impact rips the Sentinel's head right off. Cyclops takes care of the last Sentinel by simply blasting it with his optic blast. He mentions that they dealt with these Sentinels really fast, over a dozen Sentinels in no time. All of this went a lot easier than it was supposed to, no way near the Sentinels they have fought before. It all just went a bit too easy for Cyclops, which begs the question what the real threat in all of this is. He has a feeling they will all find out soon enough when they have found Jean and the others. Colossus then asks him what about Storm though. She is still adrift in outer space and she could be hurt for all they know. Cyclops tells him to back off because he knows how he feels. Colossus is getting angry with Cyclops at this point and tells him he knows nothing about how he feels. He says that she's their friend, their comrade in battle, and she could be dead. And Cyclops acts like he doesn't even care. But Colossus does care. But at that point they find out that Storm is just fine, as she's standing behind them, breathing and alive and well. Colossus picks her up and tells her that this is too wonderful to be true, because he thought she was doomed when he saw her get blown out of the spaceship. She tells him that she has always been difficult to kill, but that the Sentinel she faced in space was easier to survive than his Barog. At that moment, Cyclops is overcome by a telepathic distress signal from Jean. All kinds of images flood his brain and she tells him to come help them. Time is running out for her and Professor Xavier and she can barely maintain contact. She then tells him where both Banshee and Wolverine are located, as well as her and Professor Xavier's location, and she tells him to hurry up because Stephen Lang is coming for them and he means to murder them. Cyclops then addresses his teammates. He tells Storm, Colossus and Nightcrawler to follow the signs down to the B-deck, where they will find Wolverine and Banshee. Once they have broken them free from the holding cells, they can all join him in the main mission control room. He tells them to move it because they have no time to waste. Storm is worried about leaving Cyclops all by himself, considering they don't know if there are any more Sentinels around. Cyclops tells her that if there are, he will handle them by himself. But right now, he has given them a direct order and they should obey it. As for Stephen Lang, the so-called head honcho of the space station, he wants them to leave Lang for Cyclops himself. They then split up and Cyclops tells Corbeau to come with him. Corbeau asks Cyclops if he doesn't think he was a bit too rough on his teammates, but he quickly realizes that Cyclops has a lot more on his mind at this moment than cordial tact. And Cyclops doesn't even bother with answering him. A bit later, at the main mission control room, Lang is talking to himself. Realizing the notes he used from the original creator of the Sentinels must have been incomplete, since the Sentinels he recreated apparently are second-rate. But it doesn't really matter though. He has extracted all the necessary data he needed from the mutants, which makes the two mutants still in captivity right here, namely Professor Xavier and Jean Grey, expendable. He plans on shooting them dead, and he tells Jean that their friends might have taken the station, but she will not be alive to share in their victory. And then, the blast door to the room gets ripped off. It might have been able to withstand most blasts, but not the unleashed fury of Cyclops' concussive optic blast. He then blasts Lang, disarming him, and tells Corbeau to set Jean and Xavier free. He then picks up Lang and punches him, which launches Lang in the machinery standing there behind him. Cyclops asks Lang how it feels to be facing someone one-on-one. Someone who is actually able to fight back. In his rage, he keeps on punching Lang, over and over and over, while telling him to answer him. Jean, who is standing behind him, tells him to stop it because he's killing him, and Lang is in no shape to answer, all bruised and bloodied up. She then urgently tells Cyclops to look behind him, because there's someone in the next room. He asks her if it's another Sentinel, but before she can answer, Cyclops gets attacked, knocking him out cold. Jean recognizes who it is, and she says to please not be him. But Lang, who is starting to get up behind her, tells her that yes, it is. This is the ultimate irony. The ultimate, unbeatable enemy. This is the heart of Project Armageddon. Not those Sentinels which turned out to be quite a disappointment though. Resistance is futile, Lang tells her, and he continues by saying that her mental powers are now being neutralized by a mind not unlike her own. And this results in her not being able to warn the rest of the X-Men, as Jean finds out quickly enough. Lang then tells his pets to take Jean away and to prepare her, because the final act is about to begin. As the rest of the X-Men arrive, joined by Banshee and Wolverine, they cannot believe what they are seeing. Not sure if this is some form of a joke or a nightmare. What they find themselves now is standing face to face with the original X-Men team. Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Angel, Beast, Iceman and Professor Xavier himself. Both groups of mutants consider themselves to be the true X-Men and the other team a bunch of imposters. And Professor Xavier tells his original students to attack this team of imposters and to show them the same mercy as they would get. He tells them to attack and kill them all. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it. You can help growing this channel by liking, subscribing and sharing. This tells YouTube that the videos I'm making should be recommended to others and would be very much appreciated. See you next episode.